Returnal is truly a one-of-a-kind game, utilizing the roguelike genre to create an engaging third-person bullet hell shooter akin to something you'd see in a Toho title or Nier, wrapped up in an incredible, slow-paced PT-style psychological thriller with many moments that left my jaw on the floor, set up for a game that I am not going to be forgetting for years to come. My name's Young Falcon, and I'll be your guide through this depressing alien hellscape that is Returnal. The astronaut that you just saw crash land is named Celine. Her objective? Find who's behind the White Shadow broadcast. The planet we land on, Atropos, is a haunting place to be in. This uneasy force seeps its way into Celine's psyche and retroactively us as a player. It is a disturbing place to be in. Doubly so since we're introduced out the gate to local wildlife that wants to see your head on a pike. A door opens and reveals the corpse of a failed Astra scout and...
Atropos. I have found a deceased Astra scout here. Checking identification on helmet.
It's us. The loop has been ongoing and we seem to be the only version of ourselves who's in the know. We are now tasked with exploring this crazy, twisting world and discovering the secrets of not only an alien planet, but also a look into ourselves. The game, off the bat, is extremely punishing. Dare I say Dark Souls levels of hard at certain parts. You will often find yourself dying over and 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 over. I don't remember doing this.
Scout log, 001. I seem to be jailed in the loop. I can't put the game down. I don't understand why this is happening. Nevertheless, I need to finish this review. Firstly, the presentation.
The planet we crash land on, Atropos, is gorgeous. It oozes style and history around every corner. There's plenty of historical glyphs, holograms, and tablets, all telling the story of a trio of unknown alien races. The overgrown ruins is dense with live, overgrown fauna, both beautiful and extremely dangerous at the same time. I love the night environment with the constant rain overhead, as it makes for peaceful moments to look forward to after a hard-fought battle. What helps out even more so is the DualSense controller coupled with impeccable 3D audio. Hearing the rain roll off from tree branches into puddles, or rocks crumbling next to you through the dilapidated ruins, or the crumble of statues and slashing of overgrown weeds during combat, all makes for a very immersive experience, especially coupled with the DualSense's haptic feedback. And then you have the weapons. Gosh, the weapons sound so good. Punchy sound effects slamming against the creepy wildlife, or the hard, cold metallic exteriors of various drones and turrets you take on, all set up for something that is truly a blessing to the ears. The slow buildup of all the audio working together in harmony with thanks to the controller speaker is really something I never thought I'd come to appreciate in a game like this. When you're out of ammo and the overcharge comes on and you hit that perfect button and it makes that noise, it is something ecstatic, really electrifying stuff. This sense of weight definitely lifts off your shoulders. You clear that hard room, you take a deep breath and enjoy the hauntingly beautiful world that you've crash landed on. Before I gush about the gameplay, I feel like that's all you guys need to know about the presentation of Returnal. Just know that it is some gorgeous stuff, and this art direction carries the game immensely. Yes, I do have a couple of gripes here and there with it, as the frame rate isn't the rock solid 60 FPS I would like, as it experiences a handful of dips during the busier sections, but it's nothing that's too punishing or annoying, and it usually jumps right back up to 60 like nothing ever happened, so nothing to really criticize here, just something of note. Other than that, it is a standout title graphically, and I think its art style and presentation truly elevates the game that extra step. Yeah, I hear ya. Guess I am getting a bit hungry. I almost forgot to talk about the gameplay is an elegant ballet dance between you and a hellstorm of bullets. The Xenos take many forms and shapes, from dangerous beasts who stalk and fire blue projectiles at you, only to close the gap and dash in close with vicious fangs, along with squid-like creatures that charge at you with full force from behind usually, or fire annoying laser beams that you gotta dodge, hulking berserker types who ground pound sending shockwaves across the arena, and some other baddies just like watching the world freeze over, inflicting you with a cryo status that slows you down or literally rooting you with their greenery. The list is seemingly endless with the amount of enemy types and dangerous areas you encounter, and of course the difficulty for each run varies wildly depending on what spawns throughout your run. Moving around the arena is also a blast, especially coupled with the grappling hook's mobility. It sets up for some insane high-flying action, and with the right dash upgrades, it makes every room an encounter I was looking forward to taking on. Of course, what's a great movement without strong gunplay, and thankfully, there is tons of really interesting weapon designs in Returnal. There's a lot of Insomniac influence when it comes to how the weapons ramp up in their craziness. You start out with your standard pistol and eventually make our way forward to guns that shoot corrosive acid which whittle down your opponent, a rapid laser machine gun that punctures through enemies and ricochets off foes and walls, forming a huge chain attack among a myriad of other perks you can get with the weapon. My personal favorite is the Hollow Seeker, a rapid laser gun that corrodes opponents over time, and well, combined with being able to open a portal laser or turret that dishes out insane amounts of DPS. Every gun in this game is extremely creative in my opinion, and what encourages players to pick up and try new weapons is the proficiency levels and adrenaline systems. The more kills you get with weapons, the more items you find throughout runs, and this increases your weapon proficiency, which in turn grants each weapon additional attachments and perks. Perks on each gun aren't just shiny things you get to pick up and mess around with and see if you like. No, you have to earn them. It's a really smart system that encourages players to step outside of their comfort zone and give all the new guns a fair shake. Along with normal weapons, there's also alt-fire options for each. These range from tracker shots, grenade blasts, proximity mines. I think you guys kind of get where I'm going with this. You can mix and match these with any of the normal weapons, and it's a blast figuring out which one works for your playstyle. And speaking of playstyles, make sure you keep everything in check and your senses on high alert as you dodge and dart through each arena without getting hit, as this will rack up points towards your adrenaline system. The system works in 5 different levels. The first enhances your damage on a successful overheat, the second essentially gives you wall hacks, the third increased melee damage, the fourth, which is a boost to your proficiency rate for each weapon in hand, and the fifth is a 50% boost on how many oblets you collect, aka the currency you need to grab items in shops. Furthermore, we have consumables and artifacts. These are vital to your arsenal, letting you turn the tides of runs at a moment's notice. Disabling turrets, leeching health from baddies, and using health kits on yourself to heal up are all efficient and go a long way in making those runs a little more successful than they otherwise wouldn't be. You'll often find these consumables in shops and chests, pretty much everywhere throughout the map. This goes doubly so for paid upgrades and artifacts. Artifacts are perks made for Celine that help her out in combat. They usually are on the tame side as they increase protection within the suit to, shield a random hit, repair proficiency, which lets you heal more than average with health items, and more interesting ones like an astronaut figure that protects you from a killing blow. Say you're not looking for any of that stuff and you want to increase that health bar, well, make sure you creep around and find some resin, as that is what increases your max integrity. Maybe you're looking for something a bit more risky for each run. You want big bonuses but don't mind taking a hard negative. Well, let me introduce you to the parasites. They range from simple things like longer time obelisks will stay out by 0.5 or 2 seconds, but in turn you'll have a longer dash cooldown, or something as extreme as every bit of health you gain is from obelites collected. However, you no longer can pick up items to gain your health back. There's a ton of creative combinations out there, and it constantly makes every run the definition of taking the good with the bad if you are playing it correctly. There are so many other gameplay mechanics out there. There's the underwater boots that unlock an entire new biome, the laser blade that lets you cut down overgrown vines, etc, etc. I mean, you get the gist. The list is absolutely massive in terms of the things and items you get to mess around with to make each run personalized for you. Returnal, as you could probably tell, is a punishing world. Make sure you scavenge every room for every chest, weapon, and of course health upgrades that, may or may not be infected with some weird purple malignant goop that can disable certain suit functions. Yup, gotta introduce the malfunctions. They're truly the bane of every Returnal player's run. If you play the 50-50 and pick up a malignant item or get hit by a special projectile, boom, your suit is now malfunctioning. You have to work through who knows how many steps to repair it. Kill 20 enemies to get your health back to its normal level. If you jump, your weapon damage is cut by 75% unless you open crates. Sometimes you can't pick up items without being damaged. There's so many annoying things, and I really love it. There are ways to circumvent grabbing malignant items without taking the brunt of those malfunctions, and you have to carry around ether to cleanse them, and you can pick them up without any punishments or drawbacks. Returnal truly has all of the makings of a classic roguelike, from oblets that give you currency to purchase all the items that help you in a singular run, to the aforementioned parasites that give you that good with the bad, and of course the insane difficulty spikes out of nowhere and the deaths that you get because you couldn't find a certain item you needed to make a run. Yeah, all a 10 out of 10 roguelike from me. There's tons of other things in this game, and what I touched on was just surface level stuff, but the game is truly something else. Sadly, however, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows with the gameplay. Firstly, I have to be honest, I don't feel like this game was really built with controller in mind. Yes, the aim assist is helpful, but it doesn't really help the bullet hell nature of instilled in every part of this game. It's just a tad too much for me to personally handle on a controller when I'm so used to mouse and keyboard. Definitely a personal gripe, but something I thought I would note for my mouse and keyboard players that are interested with the title. And on my final note of negatives, I really wish Returnal respected the player's time a bit more. I understand the devs are working on things, so I'm not going to lay into them too hard, but I do wish there was a couple of things that they would tweak. For example, saving before each new biome you enter would be a nice change of pace, maybe similar to a game like Dead Cells, as this game asks a lot of your time, as runs can take upwards to 2 to 3 plus hours. However, games like Hades and Gunfire Reborn are usually around 30 to 40 minutes, or usually an hour max when it comes to those types of runs. But Returnal, they ask a lot of it, and there's no saves or anything you can do to circumvent this. Yes, you could technically put the game in rest mode, but that causes a bunch of performance issues, which was my other complaint because I had to take so many breaks, that it made the game's overall frame rate just dip constantly if you leave your game in rest mode. And of course, the unfortunate thing that happened with people losing where they were at in certain points because the game updated in the background. There's a lot of stuff here that just needs to be circumvented for ease of use for players like myself, and I would actually love to see some of those accessible changes so more people can enjoy the product. Whew. This game can get downright brutal at points, and I suggest that all of you guys take breaks. One second.
Scout log 002. I'm aware of the review. It's going pretty much as planned, but I can't seem to upload it, let alone finish the thing.
What's going
It's
on?
almost as if no one wants to see this come to fruition.
Darn it. Those... Gosh. The bosses, man, they are so punishing. They throw absolutely everything at you. The melee attacks, swarms upon swarms upon swarms of bullets, teleportation. I've even seen them rip the floor underneath your very feet. There's so much more that I dare not spoil for the audience, but dare I say these are some of the most challenging and fun bosses I've had in a roguelike since Risk of Rain 2. I just want to finish the upload. Come on. Come on, man. Just let me finish the upload. A warning for viewers who haven't played the game yet, there will be some story spoilers ahead. My final scout log entry will consist of my analysis on the plot of Returnal. For those who have played the game, you'll know exactly why a story like this truly will only work in the genre of gaming roguelikes. Throughout the journey, we see Celine freak out over seeing multiple versions of her dead bodies, her scout logs left throughout the game, and seeing her mental state deteriorate further and further as you get deeper in your runs. You'll keep seeing allusions to her life on Earth upon every death she receives, always revealing something much more sinister that took place before her expedition to Atropos. Eventually, after playing through the first act and fighting one of the coolest bosses of all time, by the way, Celine finds the signal broadcast and stops it once and for all. This allows her to be rescued from the planet Atropos, where she seemingly lives out the rest of her life on Earth and dies of old age, putting the struggles of the foreign planet long behind her. Only, that's not the case. She doesn't die peacefully. She wakes right back up on the planet that started it all, and we jumped a good 50 plus years into the future. Celine is very confused about what's going on, visibly upset, and her mental state is further deteriorating as you find further scout logs. And as the player, so am I. All that grinding, hard work, and all the rewards that I thought I was going to gain from completing the first act are completely wiped away, and all I feel is just more pain to go through. Before I move on to some of the story stuff that really interests me, we have to talk about the insane house sequences. They're these unsettling PT style sections that reveal more about Celine's past. The first act has very little significance to the overall plot up until the very final act, which is Act 3, so I'll briefly go over them and come back to them when the time is right. Firstly, we learn about Celine's weird phobia with the white astronaut that stalks her house. In the second visit, we learned something quite important, that being the very Astra program we are working for eventually ended up rejecting her from ever joining their team, which adds a whole new layer of what the heck is going on to the plot. She also comments on a stuffed animal named Octo that she remembers from her youth. Theoretically speaking, we don't quite know yet. However, upon visiting a future house visit, you see us play as a younger version of what seems to be Celine, as she's putting down a PS5 controller. As you guess, take control of her younger self, you walk around the house and of course find Octo and learn more about her weird phobia with the astronaut, as it seems to take her in a, hugging embrace and shoots the black tentacles that pull her down in the eventual Returnal loop. I know this sounds extremely confusing, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not gonna get any simpler from here on out as you further fight your way through hordes and hordes of alien monsters, discover some lore stuff with different bosses you encounter and things of that nature, and eventually lead up to the climactic finish, which is this underwater labyrinth you traverse through, building your way up to the Orphean boss, taking it on, and landing to see a white sedan parked outside of your end game's location. And as you finish this seemingly final boss, you're greeted with one of the saddest cutscenes I think I've ever seen in a game. This is usually where I would put the game down and say, well, I beat it, I got the trophy and everything, but Returnal has one more secret underneath its belt. That's right, one final Act 3 we have to go through. We have to gather parts of a sunstone, a reoccurring plaque that's seen in the family house. Once we've gained this final piece of information, a car key, we work our way to the tail end of the game once again and learn a couple of different hints about Celine's personal life. We learn of her mother, who is wheelchair bound by some horrific accident and is severely angry and depressed throughout a large chunk of Celine's life. We even learn of her mother's state at the final cutscene, which is what we were building up to when you put the car keys in the weird SUV sedan thing, and learn that this whole time Thea's this weird xeno alien creature that seems to be pregnant with something, and Celine says she no longer needs her or whatever and pushes her away, and the game just kind of ends with her turning into the astronaut and then getting hit by the car, which causes the accident and begins the loop. So you're telling me I went through all of this work, all of this codex entries and xenoglyphs I was collecting, and you get the gist, only to be greeted with a cutscene ending that makes somehow even less sense than the second one that I got for Act 2? Let's discuss. Returnal is truly a confusing game, and I'm sorry if I thought I was leading you on with giving you the answers, when in reality I'm just building up for more questions, because that's what Returnal has basically poised to me after rolling its end credits for the third and seemingly final time. It is truly a roguelike masterpiece because every single part of this game and how it was built, the randomly generated rooms and items, and the way your runs can greatly vary with what collectibles you find, and everyone's unique run being different depending on what they find in a scout log or what xenoglyphs they uncover and things of that nature. It is truly a unique version of the game depending on who you're talking to and what you're playing and what they discover, that no one's run and discussion will ever be the same as someone else's, and I find that to be a powerful thing that only video games can truly pull off. As for Returnal's storyline, I really think it's up to the player to decipher what you make of it, and I think that's a really beautiful thing. Maybe it's an allegory of how Greek mythology perceives human mortality, thanks to the lives of the Severed and other xenospecies they've led and the notes and breadcrumbs they left throughout the game. That's kind of the conclusion some players have come up to. Or maybe it's quite literally just about Celine. There's so many different interpretations of how this game can be. The first of which, and most popular when it comes to Celine, is the game is an allegory of generational trauma in the family. It basically goes as followed. Thea, aka Selena's mother, was always cold and distant towards Celine's aspirations of becoming an astronaut, thus the reoccurring imagery. Now, it's not just known if this is because the mother's just cold and distant towards the child in general, or if it's because of something a little more darker, that she was in this car crash, was wheelchair and essentially hospitalized and shut out of the astronaut life that she wanted to lead, and so in a way Celine wanted to carry that torch and the mom was doing everything to keep her down, which unfortunately just didn't work out, and now Celine struggling with the implications of finally reaching those goals and trying to get away from her traumatic household and things that affected her through her youth, aka the location name being Helios, which is why we keep seeing it being brought up throughout the entire game. Abandoning Helios, leaving Helios to die, etc, etc. Could just be one giant allegory for her mother. Another popular theory is that the entire plot of Returnal takes place in Celine's head, possibly right before the car crash happens or during the hospitalization of said car crash. Basically, the reason being for this is the various medication and stuff of that nature found throughout the house, the constant rejection emails and messages she gets through various points of the games coming straight from Astra, and it basically being one giant world Celine created to deal with her own mental trauma that she's endured, not only through the course of her life as a youngin, but also during the events of the car crash and things of that nature. This would explain all those rapid flashing death sequences we see of Thea, who we're guessing is the one getting lowered into the casket and gravestone, and Celine seeing this moment and trying to comprehend everything going on and escaping back into the world of sorting through her personal trauma with, well, the game we played through, Returnal. It also would once again explain the abandonment of Helios, as it would seem that was her innocence or youth being left behind in that car crash, and her having to essentially become an adult, call an ambulance, and get everything sorted with her mother. And well, we all know the after effects of that, as she is wheelchair bound and hospitalized due to the horrific crash. What I'm trying to get at is there are so many different ways to interpret Returnal's storyline, and that's why I appreciate the game so much as not just an excellent roguelike, but as a storytelling art form. If Returnal to you is just one giant kill all the bad aliens and get off the planet, that's okay. If it's a deep allegory for the cycle of generational trauma, that's fine as well. If you see it as a woman in space and bagging her problems with life while fighting hordes of awful aliens, well, that's also a-okay as well. The list goes on and on with the myriad of interpretations we have on the plot, and I think that's a really beautiful thing that only the roguelike genre of gaming can accomplish, and I think it's executed, like I said earlier, absolutely wonderfully. As for my personal interpretation of the plot, I think it goes as followed for me personally. Yes, all the events happen in the first act of the game. This is all genuine, true things that went down. She went to an alien planet, crash landed there, some awful things happened, and it was very mind warping and bending as she tries to work through some of her trauma back on Earth. As for the second act, I think that is all in her head. The way that she's getting astral letters that she doesn't recognize being given to her, the way that she's combining all of these events with what happened on the alien planet with what's happening in her real life with the sedan and the car crash, and her mother being wheelchair bound or stuff, for saying that she's forgotten about that, and things of that nature. I think all the second act stuff is just up in her head and her trying to sort through everything that's going on, unfortunately, and the first act is genuinely her on an alien planet trying to get off of it, and the white shadow and things like that are just something to set up for the breadcrumbs of what's eventually going to come as she unbags more of her trauma in Act 2. I just can't bring myself to do it. What if the video's too long? What if it underperforms? I mean, what if no one gets to see what I worked on? Forget it. Enough self-loathing. The only way people can see my art is if I put myself out there, right? Through my pursuit of content creation, I forgot the most important part of it all. Clouded by the fame, making money, the work, the hard work. None of that mattered. What mattered the whole time was having that smile and having fun working on these projects. Being glad that I even made it this far, and, well, learning to be content with that. And honestly, that's all anyone could ask for. Thank you all so much for watching my Returnal review. It really means a lot. This is by far my most ambitious video I think I've ever done, and yeah, I'm just really glad that hopefully it turns out okay. If there's anything you want to talk about with Returnal or discuss gaming in general and the, roguelike genre and stuff like that or whatnot, please comment down below. It would really mean a lot and it helps the channel out a ton, obviously. And if you, further enjoy the content and want to stay locked here and keep up with more reviews and stuff, please drop a like, subscribe, and of course, follow me over at Twitter and things of that nature, twitch.tv and all that, to catch me with my live up-to-date shenanigans. Thank you all so much again for watching. Please make sure you take care of yourselves and have a wonderful, safe time. I wish you all the best, and goodbye.